August 2025. In the vast, silent expanse of the Alaskan wilderness, history will shortly be on the point of holding its breath. Two men, symbols of world tension, ambition, and controversy, about to meet beneath the pale northern sky. A summit of secrecy, rumor, and strategic ambiguity. One, the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. The other, one long associated with Cold War echoes and contemporary geopolitical chess, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Their names have swirled for more than a decade in world headlines. Largely side by side, usually at cross purposes, they have differing ideologies, but their tactics are familiar. Both are keen to use power as their currency and optics as their battlefield. The location was chosen with care, not Moscow, not Washington, but the cold neutrality of Fairbanks, Alaska, a Cold War station of yesterday, now a backdrop for this new brand of diplomacy. Not from palace floors, not from parliament floors, but from an ex-NORAD station redeployed for this specific day. On the morning of August 22, 2025, two aircraft descended from the low Arctic clouds. The American aircraft, slick, shiny, shielded with fighter escort. The Russian airplane, hardened, quiet, with the long silhouettes of Moscow's intent. When they landed, there was silence. Not a crowd anywhere. This was not PR. This was a reckoning. Once they stepped off their plane, the air at the base seemed frozen with tension. The red carpet remained rolled out on the cold tarmac, a splash of bright color on the white blanket of Alaskan snow. The moment proceeded with nearly military precision. Trump stepped down the steps of Air Force One, his topcoat flowing in the cold air. Putin followed some minutes later, his face unreadable, his stride purposeful. They moved toward the midpoint, eyes locked on each other, arms outspread. Then it happened. A low growl began to roll across the horizon. Eyes looked up. In precise formation, two United States Air Force B-12 bombers thundered, overhead, slicing through the clouds, low, loud, unmistakable. It wasn't noise, it was a message. It was the boldest stretch of diplomacy of recent times for some, and a risky stagecraft maneuver for others. For both leaders, however, it was crystal clear. Power did not lie in oration, but in wings. Putin looked upwards just once. Trump did not. Their handshake lasted exactly 9 seconds. The room had been specifically arranged. Wooden chairs, no translators in sight, one American flag on one side, the Russian tricolor on the other. No aides, no cameras, just two men and two translators. Their talks would never get committed, to paper at least. What did they talk about? Accounts are that the agenda included energy corridors through the Arctic, prolonged deployment of NATO close to Russia borders, and the economic effects of a post-sanctions order. Trump, with an eye on a legacy beyond partisanship, wanted deals that would reshuffle global energy flows and recast the United States-Russia policy. Putin, as ever, wanted leverage, a détente on his own terms. Insiders characterized the room environment as not warm, but oddly obsequious. Trump, never hesitant for bold proposals, made ones that left his own intelligence agents speechless. Putin, restrained and cold, raised counter-arguments on the basis of metaphors, world history, geography, and forgotten alliances. They did not seek areas of commonality. They tested one another's margins. The world viewed from afar. There was alarm from the leaders of Europe. China remained characteristically reticent, personally curious. The news media speculated frenziedly. What was given, what was traded, and which lines had been crossed. Halfway through the 5-hour session, Trump allegedly went for a walk, albeit alone. Not with aides, just snow and wind. Some called it symbolic, a presidential visit from an American commander-in-chief. Under the northern lights, and considering the burden of his own diplomacy, some called it ego, some called it calculation. Once he returned, their discussion grew caustic. Cyber treaties, suspended accounts, and indeed prisoner swaps came up. At one point, sources said, it got cold in the room, no thanks to the Alaskan climate, but due to one sentence exchanged between the two. We both know what lines not to cross, but what if they have? Before the summit finally ended, the two men stood before a formal line of flags, a makeshift press conference. It was brief, calculated, their sentences chosen as if bullets, precise, textured, and opaque. Trump began, his voice strong, decisive. It was a strong debate. We do not agree on everything. But both of us agree peace comes before war. Energy, borders, cyber, these are areas of which there will continue to be debate. Yes, we did talk of Ukraine. Then came Putin, icy and calm as the Alaskan wind. He did not give any expression, but his speech said just enough. Putin, we spoke at great length on Ukraine. Russia has its view. The United States has theirs. War doesn't last forever. At some point there must be conversation. Not now, when? Not here, where? He paused, looked away. Not at Trump, but beyond him. A small smile began on his lips. Putin perhaps next time, in Moscow. The room fell quiet. The press shocked. Trump smiled thinly, but said nothing. Once Trump had left, Vladimir Putin did not immediately depart himself. Instead, his motorcade drove on to the far end of the old Russian memorial plot. A survivor of an abandoned, Cold War-era Soviet base at Alaska, an Alaska Cold War relic buried in snow and silence. There, beneath gray skies and watchful silence, Putin stood alone before a slab of stone. It bore no national emblem, no pomp, only a name, carved in Cyrillic, and a date, 2022, a symbolic tribute to Russian troops who died during the Ukrainian war. He left one red carnation beside the stone, not a speech, not cameras, just a nod. And he went away. The two leaders were gone at dusk. Air Force One disappeared into the cloud cover of the Arctic. Putin's aircraft climbed slowly behind it, west, into darkness. The world was left with fragments, obscure vocabulary, tense photographs, and a promise, spoken, with menace and invitation, of their next confrontation would be on Russian soil. And so, Alaska was not the end, but the staging ground for something more. A change not in treaties, but tone. Not in peace, but posture. And somewhere between the frost-bitten quiet of diplomacy and the growl of history's engines, a new uncertainty had begun.